Now, my pleasure to introduce our speakers today, Sara Thomas. Hi, Sara.
Hey there.
Sara is the co-network lead of the Volunteer Supporters Network and program manager at Wikimedia UK. She has extensive experience in supporting volunteer communities and developing effective learning programs. We are very excited to learn from her insight today. And then, with that, let's dive in. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Liz, for that lovely introduction. And thank you so much to the ESEAP Hub for having me today. So, hello, everybody. I'm Sarah from the Volunteer Supporters Network and also Wikimedia UK. And I'm really happy to be here today to present on building a training program for your community. By the end of today, I am hoping that folks will be more aware of how to assess the training needs of your community and how to understand more about building a training offer for your community.
大家好，我是 Sara，我是
The Volunteer Supporters
多
Network
资源
has
网络
been
的
around
成员，
for
我
a
也
few
是
years
英
now,
国工会的
and
专案
last year we became a hub pilot. We have three main strands of work. Skill shares,
我
much
今
like
天
the
非
one
常
that
高
you're
兴来到这里呢，大
participating
家
in
分享
today.
如何为你的社群建立
Peer-to-peer
一个
learning
新的方
sessions,
案。
which are designed specifically to improve the skills and capacities of those who do work to support volunteers within the movement.
在今天的活动结束的时候，
The
我希望
production,
大家能够
curation
更
and
加了
sharing
解
of
如何
learning
评估
resources,
你们社群的
and
培
bringing
训需
together the
求，
voices
以
of
及
volunteer
怎么样为你们
managers
社群
across
建立一个
UK.
培训的方案。我们的工
Our
作主要
overall
有3个
aim
重
as
点，
the
其
hub
中一个
pilot
是 skill
is to
share， 就是分
increase the
享我们的
quality of
技能，
connection
就像我
between
今
those
天要分
working
享的
in
这一场演
affiliates and user groups in the global movement who support communities of volunteers to improve their sense of community and build their capacity to support volunteers, including welcoming and training through peer-to-peer learning and knowledge sharing activities. We realise that the terminology that we use to describe our community can be difficult. In the UK, we use volunteer managers. Elsewhere, it is volunteer supporters or community managers. And this usually refers to a job, either paid or unpaid, that someone does, which involves actively managing and supporting volunteers in the movement. This work may be your entire role or just part of your role. But if your role involves looking at how you attract volunteers, how you retain them, support them, or train them, then you are exactly the sort of person who we hope could benefit from being part of the Volunteer Supporters Network. We run Skillshare sessions every 2 months and peer-to-peer sessions in the months between that. Our Skillshare sessions are recorded and we aim to share the video and an accompanying resource on our resource base on Meta. Our peer-to-peer sessions are opportunities for members and liaisons of the VSN to come together and share their experiences and challenges in a non-recorded space where we can speak a little more freely. We summarise our points of best practice from these meetings and again post them on our resource base on Meta. Skillshares are open to everybody, and peer-to-peer meetings are limited to members and liaisons, again in an effort to create a safer space for sharing. You can read a little more about how we structure the peer-to-peer meetings on this div post. And if there's something that you'd feel you'd be interested in learning more about, please do drop me an email. My email address will be on the final slide of my presentation. We also have an email list and a Telegram group for members and liaisons. And if you head over to our Meta page and the news section, you'll see a new event. We are using campaign events as an extension to create a newsletter. And you can sign up to this and you'll receive regular updates about our work. This newsletter is aimed towards the movement more generally, and we hope to be able to share pieces of information about how we are building the hub, about how we're trying to become more global as a hub pilot, as an organisation, and about the sorts of things that we do and the resources that we have available. We also have a partnership with CAPEX, where we have a presence, and we're also currently working on a number of other partnerships to connect us across the movement and share our skills and learning for the benefit of those who support volunteers in the movement. We're working with the
你可以
EduWiki
在
Hub, with Let's
Meta
Connect,
上面的
with
页面
content
以及
partnerships
Beef
hub,
上
and
找
of
到
course
关于
with
我
the
们这一
Wikimedia Hub.
场活动的资讯。
Most of our members and liaisons are based in Europe and Latin America, and more recently, we've had more interest in our activities from sub-Saharan Africa. We don't currently have a lot of reach in ESEAP or MENA, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, to reach out to your community. If you have come to one of our sessions,
我们
please
也
do let us
和
know
维
in the
基媒体
chat.
运动中其
Language is, of
他
course,
的伙
sometimes
伴
a
合
barrier,
作，一
and
起
while
在
we have
群里
some
推动
people
各
in the
种资源
translation
与
and
内容的合
sub-Saharan
作。我
part
们
of
大
the
多
learning
数的会
community
员
as a
都
thematic
在
hub and trying
欧
to work
洲。
more globally is how we can make our resources and activities more accessible to more of the movement. What I'm going to talk about today is how to build a training program for your community, drawing on some of the experience that we've had at Wikimedia UK. To give you an idea of what we have in place at Wikimedia UK and the position from which I'm talking, I'm going to give a little bit of background. We've been a registered charity since 2011, and this year is our 15th birthday. We have 15 members of staff, about half of which are in the programs team, working toward the delivery of activity with partner organisations and volunteers. We are not all full-time. Most of us are part-time, in fact, including myself, and most of us, excuse me, and we work on a pretty wide portfolio that's driven by our strategic aims and the associated delivery plan. I've made a link in these slides here to our strategic objectives, to our 2025 to 2030 strategy. Part of my remit as a programme manager is working on volunteering across the UK, and one of my team members, Rupal Carrier, who's also involved in the VSN, is our outreach and community coordinator at Wikimedia UK. I'll emphasise that I know that the needs and capacity of my chapter won't necessarily be the same as yours, and I'm not here to say that the things that we do are the things that everybody should do. Each affiliate needs to and will work to the specifics of their own community. But I think and I hope that the way that we've approached developing the volunteer training programme can be of interest and help to others. It would be great to hear in the chat as we go along if anything that we're doing is particularly similar or particularly different from what you're doing in your own affiliate. Our largest cohort of volunteers are our volunteer trainers, and we've been running a Train the Trainer programme for over a decade now. There are around 70 active volunteers in the trainer pool, and they run training courses for us all over the UK, sometimes in response to requests that we receive from partner organisations, and sometimes there will be leads that they have developed on their own. Over the years, we've developed this programme to include not just the annual training course to bring on new volunteers, but also a programme of continuing development and training for existing volunteers and the community more widely. I've talked before about developing a Train the Trainer programme at Wikimania a couple of years ago. And there are links to this and to the recording of the session that I ran at Wikimania Singapore. And these links can either be dropped in the chat, but I can also very happy to send them to yourselves after the event. In terms of our volunteer and community training programme then, we have a wide range of things that we provide, and these have really expanded, particularly in the last few years. So over the last couple of years, our current, we have expanded our programme quite a lot. And our current program includes all of the following things. For our trainers, our volunteer trainers, we run an annual Train the Trainer course where we bring on new people. That comprises a 4 or 5 week course on WikiLearn and then a weekend in-person training.
我
We've
们目
also
前已经扩充了这个方
experimented
案。
with
目
some
前的做法
international
是，除
programs
了培
with
养新志
online
工之
only
外，也
like
把培
last
训者
year,
的知识
where
纳入
all
整体
of
的
the
规划。
cohorts did the WikiLearn course, and then we
这
replicated
个专
some
案
of
包
the
括在
in-person
WikiLearn
training
上面进
as
行，
far as possible to some online sessions that were held over a couple of weeks. I really enjoyed that, but I'm also aware that it still needs a little bit of work. We also ran a mentorship program for new trainers, pairing new trainers up with existing trainers from the pool, which gave our trainers something different to do, and it gave additional support for the new cohort. We've also put in a participant feedback process for trainers, where there is a QR code and a link to a survey that can be shared at the end of any course that a trainer is running. And that feedback can be gathered by my colleague Rupal, and she can share that with the trainers so that they always get feedback on their work and can understand a little bit more about how their training is landing with their trainees. Throughout the year, we also have regular trainer catch-up meetings. We hold these every couple of months online, and it helps the community to learn from each other and to feel more connected to other trainers in the cohort. We have a regular trainer email list on which we share learning points and other things that we may come across which we may feel might be useful for our trainers. We also have a Slack channel that is just for trainers, where we can share links to opportunities, and we can also discuss any issues that they have, any problems that are raised, and they can ask us any questions. For all community members, and not just our trainers, we also run a variety of events. We now have a public editathon series. We just started this in 2025. And every couple of months, we will hold a regular introduction to Wikipedia training and editing workshops held online and led by our volunteer trainers. So this gives our new trainers an opportunity to practice and to hone their skills. And it gives new editors and new volunteers a chance to learn and a chance to meet other community members. One thing that we had noticed is that increasingly we had fewer events which were open to the general public. And that meant that for new volunteers who really wanted to learn from a person and not just from a screen, that they didn't have as many things to go to. So for them, it means that we always had an opportunity to point them to the next training course that anybody could attend. Also new for last year were the sandbox sessions. And I'll be talking a little bit more about these later on in the presentation. Sandbox sessions are volunteer-led events which go beyond the standard introduction to Wikipedia training session. They are held online and can cover a range of different topics. Wikimedia UK do all the administration and the publicity. We host the meetings, and all the volunteers need to do is to lead the sessions. These sessions bring in new audiences and allow our volunteers to talk about something interesting in their work, to share their learning, to teach a new skill, or to share a new project and their enthusiasm for what it is that they are doing on Wiki. We record all of these sessions and host them on our websites and our YouTube channel so that they can be used as a resource in the future. We also do one-off training sessions on particular topics. More recently, these have been on Wikidata, as that is what our community has requested, and we've paid a trainer to come and deliver 2 introductory sessions on editing Wikidata and on querying Wikidata. At this point, I'll also point out that these activities should be understood as sitting within the wider context of volunteering at Wikimedia UK, which includes other volunteer opportunities, such as being a member of our Board of Trustees or being on our Community Development Committee. This is a committee that has some board members and some community members who come together to advise the board on community matters. We also have some volunteers that get involved with our Wiki Loves campaigns. We support Wiki Loves Folklore, Wiki Loves Monuments, and Wiki Loves Earth. And we have volunteers who get involved as judges and who help us with publicity. And I'm currently recruiting for somebody to help us with the Wikidata side of Wiki Loves Earth and Wiki Loves Monuments in particular. We also have contribution prompts, things like MiniWiki, which is a program that my colleague Rupal came up with. And that has been a monthly blog for the past year with a selection of prompts for very small things that people can do to get involved in Wikipedia or in Wikimedia or in any of the other Wikimedia projects. This came about in response to something that we heard from many volunteers and community members about how little time that they had and how they felt sometimes that sitting down to write a whole Wikipedia article or do a big project felt like too much. And they wanted to know about small, little, short activities that they could do to keep their skills up when they had less time. We also did a New Year's resolutions program for the last 2 years. That has been small, but it's been really good for the people who've been involved. So we took the opportunity of the 1st of January and the tradition of New Year's resolutions to ask people to make a promise or a suggestion of what they wanted to achieve over the next year in terms of their Wikimedia editing. And throughout the year then, we sent them prompts, we sent them reminders, and any support or resources that we could give them to help them achieve their goal. We also run a volunteer grants program, which is one of the things that we talk about in terms of support and celebration. So we have an annual community celebration. This event was once part of our AGM, and we have split that off and made it into its own event. We've been hosting these online for the last 3 years, 4 years now. I can't remember. And they're an opportunity for us to showcase through lightning talks and short presentations the work that our community members have been doing. We get to bring everybody together in a virtual room so people from all over the UK can meet each other and hear about the work that each other has been doing. We also have our volunteer grants program. This is a small grants program where volunteers and community members can apply for small amounts of money to support the work that they're doing on Wiki or towards any of the strategic objectives of Wikimedia UK. We also have an equipment loan program, although that has been less popular in recent years. You'll notice that all of these things that I've just talked about are not directly always about training, and that's deliberate because our training program goes hand in hand with and is part of our wider consideration of how we support our volunteers, which includes looking for different ways for them to be involved and making sure that we have open lines of communication and making sure also that we have taken care to thank and to celebrate our volunteers. You'll also notice that this does not include the hundreds of training events that we run or support each year, which are advertised to particular communities or through partner organisations. This is because this is more in line with what I would call programmatic delivery, and so are a little outside the scope of what I'm talking about today. So there are two, when we come on to thinking about how to build a training program for your community, whether that be something that you already do or something that you are starting from scratch. There are two things that I think are probably the most important factors to consider when building a training program. And the first of these is need. That is, what is the community need for training? And what is your organizational capacity to deliver? We'll come on to that second one in a little while. Any training program that you need to deliver has to balance these two things, the need and the capacity. There is absolutely no point in delivering training which your community does not need, and you can't promise to deliver something for which you do not have the capacity. So let's talk about this first one, need. And by that, I mean, what does your community need? What are they telling you that they need? Have you identified, or can you identify, any gaps? And is there any overlap with what you as an organization need? Depending on the size or age of your affiliate, you may already have established ways to find this out from your community, to get feedback, or just to communicate with them. These might be more formal or informal methods, depending on the activity. So at the more formal end, perhaps you have a regular community survey, and at the other, maybe you speak to community members at events or have regular catch-up meetings with them. As I've said before, this will look very different from chapter to chapter, from group to group. Not everybody's affiliates in the movement has the same age, the same size, the same access to resources. At Wikimedia UK, we have a regular survey called the Community Leaders Survey, which goes out to volunteers who've led training events or other activities in the last year, and also staff members at partner organisations like museums and universities with whom we deliver work. It's a really key site for us to gather feedback about lots of things, and it's a key site for us for metrics for our reporting to the Foundation. As part of this survey, we ask about training needs that the community has. And this gives us ideas about what we might want to do and what we might want to include in our training programme for the next year. Both there are sandbox sessions that I mentioned earlier and the Wikidata one-off training came about as a result of suggestions that came through this survey. We also do a lot of work on smaller Wikipedias, so on Welsh Wikipedia, for example. And our member of staff based in Wales recently did a smaller survey just on Welsh Wiki to ask what kind of work the Welsh community in particular would like to see us doing. This kind of direct on wiki contacts is really important for us, particularly in the smaller wikis such as Scots and Welsh in which we do work. One thing that we haven't done yet, but which I'm working on, and I very much hope that I have time to deliver in the next few months, is a more broad and far-reaching editor survey, aimed at those editing from across the UK.
在我们英国分会，我们有
try
一
and
份
reach
固定
people
进行
that
的
we
调
don't
查，
yet
叫做
have
Community。
contact with. They are the people that I call the known unknowns. We know that they edit, we know that they are based in the UK, that we may be able to support them, but we don't have any contact with them yet. We know that there are lots of editors in the UK that either... Okay, sorry, I'll just check in case that was a question coming through or just a live mic. Okay, I'll assume that was just a live mic. We know that there are lots of editors in the UK that don't yet know about us or with whom we're not in contact with. And so we're looking at doing a central notice banner campaign on various wikis from IP addresses based in the UK that would link to a survey. As a chapter, doing a central notice banner campaign for a survey is a little more complicated than a standard banner campaign. There are additional rules, and these have changed within the last year and a half, I think. And so it's taking some consideration, but we hope that it will give us some key insights into the need that the community has and those people whom we are not yet serving. For more about central notice banners, if you haven't seen them, and these updated guidelines, there is a link in the resources for today that either one of the team here can share in the chat, or I can send after the event. If you have any experience of doing central notice banners, please do let us know in the chat. Perhaps there are things that you have come across, particular challenges, or any particular benefits. So in the first instance, we need to find out what the community needs. And that should also include a consideration of what your affiliate needs, where it is appropriate. For example, if you're being asked to provide more training courses than you are able to deliver yourself, then you may want to look at developing a Train the Trainer course. I've been in a discussion group with a number of Western affiliates who are either developing a Train the Trainer course or who would like to start doing it. And that's been a really useful way for us to share knowledge and to learn from each other. If you don't yet know what your community needs, then we need to find a way to ask them. And again, if you are starting from scratch, if you are a smaller group, if you are looking to figure out how to build your community, this can be a really good place to start. The simplest way to do this may be through a survey. You may want to use something like Lime Survey or Qualtrics, even a Google form or a banner ad, depending on what you have access to and what is most suitable and most appropriate for your community. If you have regular meetings, you may want to include an opportunity for people to give you feedback. And if you're just starting, this is the first step is going to be the first step is going to be to do that, to find some sort of space where you can reach them. And that may entail starting very small and building from there. And that is perfectly okay. If you're working in a smaller language wiki, it may be that your community is synonymous with that language work. For us at Wikimedia UK, English wiki is so international that it's not a one-to-one comparison, but we do also work with smaller language wikis of the indigenous languages of the UK, so Welsh, Scots, and Scottish Gaelic, for example. This doesn't necessarily mean that you need to launch something brand new. It could be that you have an existing channel in which you're already talking to the community and to which you could find an opportunity to ask about their training needs. It is, of course, possible that you'll be asked
这
for
种直接
things
在
that
Wiki
you do
上
not
接触社
currently
群的
provide.
方式，对我们来
Takes us
说
to our
非常
next
重要。
point,
有一
and
件我
that
们还
is
没做，但我自己个人正在推动，也希
in
望
the
接下
first
来几个月
instance,
内有时
I
间
think
完成
it's
的事情，
wise to
就是
assess
一
what
个
your
更加
capacity
广
is to
泛
deliver the training
的
that your community has asked for. If either you or your team have the skills and knowledge to deliver that training, then that's likely to be fairly easy. But if you don't, and if you don't know anyone who can, then that can be very frustrating, or it can feel that you are letting your community down somehow by not being able to provide it. One thing I will say right now is that it's not always possible to provide everything that everybody wants, and that has to be okay. Capacity also means resources, and resources also includes money. If you have a budget for training and volunteering, then it may be possible to pay someone to deliver training on your behalf. But not all affiliates are going to have the money for that. And in that case, maybe you can't provide an original full training course, but maybe you can signpost to existing resources from elsewhere in the movement. I think one of the things that we are really good at doing as a Wikimedia community is sharing our knowledge. Then there are so many pieces of really good work that are sometimes fairly hidden. Sometimes it is just another page on Meta. But there are resources out there, things which might need to be translated, things which might need to be adapted, but there are other resources out there that you can signpost people towards. So in assessing what your capacity is to deliver training and matching that capacity to community need, you may need to prioritize, or you may need to think creatively. I would propose having some sort of checklist. So prioritizing community need. What will give the most benefit to the most people? Another question might be, can you deliver that training yourself? Can other people on your team deliver that training? Perhaps you have other volunteers within your community that could deliver that training. Maybe there is a kind of training that could be delivered through peer learning, bringing people together in the same space to share their knowledge and learn from each other. Maybe then you could provide support in different ways, whether that be a physical space, whether that be an online space, like simply having a Zoom account. Maybe you could offer administration to support. It may be that you have other kinds of capacities available to you that can support this work. Are there resources or learning materials that you already have that you can share? Maybe you have the capacity to develop new resources or learning materials, or adapt something that already exists. Maybe there are things from elsewhere in the movement that can be used. If you've ever come across a really great training resource, if there's something that you have really benefited from, or that you'd like to see shared more widely, then please do share it in the chat. I'm sure that people here would be really love to hear about other resources that are available. For those that are listening in Chinese, I am going to apologize for how text heavy
这
this
项
slide
工
is.
作。
Again, I'll provide the slides later.
例
So
如，你
for
们
this
是不是
weekend.
已经有一些现成的资源或者学习材料可以分享？
So we've established what the need is in our community, and we've looked at what our capacity is to deliver. And now what we're going to do is to bring these two things together. We have an idea of what kind of capacity we have, and that's in the bottom left. And we have an idea of what the community wants, and that is in the top left. If you have a wider team or a committee, then I would definitely suggest that you involve them in this process of bringing together need and capacity and asking them for ideas. If you involve them in that process, then I feel that you're more likely to be able to leverage support from across your organization and bring people on board with you. Whether you are building a program from scratch or you're looking to develop something that you already have, I'd suggest creating some sort of framework to note all these things down. This is drawn from some examples that we had at Wikimedia UK, and all I did was draw it in a Google Doc. So on the top left, we have things that the community told us that they want. These were some real examples that we took from our community leaders survey. And in the bottom left were things that I thought maybe we could draw on. You'll see that I've added two boxes, one for evaluation in the top right, and one for community support framework. By the latter, I mean things that we already have in place, things that I may be able to draw on, or things that I would like to link to. The section for evaluation means that I am always reminding myself to factor that in at the planning stage. So for any new activity, particularly for anything that might be experimental, I know from the start how it is that I'm going to tell whether or not this has been
左
successful.
下角是我们对自己有什么能力的理解，另外一边左上角是我们对社群想要什么的理解。如果你有一个比较大的团队或者有委员会，我非常建议你把他们一起拉进这个过程，一起来整理需求和能力之间的关系，一起提出想法。因为如果你让他们参与这个过程，就更有可能让整个组。
I find for myself that they are helpful reminders, and they help me to maximize impact and community benefit when I am planning new activities. So once we've brought all of these things together, we can do the fun bit, which for me is project ideation. I love coming up with new ideas for events, for training programs, for activities that we can do. I absolutely love drawing together those threads and seeing what we can create from what we have. It's weaving this something bigger. It is weaving a new blanket from all of the threads of the things that we have, and we get to make something new. And I love that process. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. But I really like the process. I like testing things, and I like bringing new things to the community. I'm going to look at two examples here. The first two priorities that were on the need column, the first one, number 1 and number 2, which were Wikidata. That was a training need that always comes up for us. And then the second, which was where some of our volunteers really wanted a variety of events to take part in. And they wanted to be doing less of the administration on organizing events. So I'm going to talk about Wikidata training and volunteers wanting different events and a variety of events. These are both real examples from our program in 2025. So for us, Wikidata training is a perennial training ask. We know we have a good Wikidata trainer even, sorry. We have a really good Wikidata trainer available to us. He does need to be paid. We like to pay people for their work where we can. But that's okay because we had a small amount of training budget that I was able to assign to that work. At this point in time, our staff did not have the capacity to write a brand new training course, but we were able, therefore, to outsource it. Other things that I knew we have our own Zoom account, which we could use. We know how to use campaign events, the new OnWiki event management and campaign management tool. And we also have a YouTube account. So we can record the training, put it onto our YouTube account for future reference and distribution, providing us with a resource to which we can signpost people in the future. The reason that we use the YouTube account and not Commons for uploading, which is a question that I am sometimes asked, is because the training includes recording of community members' faces. I wasn't sure, wasn't 100% comfortable with putting that on an open license because there was some discussion. So we kept it on YouTube for the moment. We might do it differently in the future. One thing I also knew is that we could do the work on advertising and marketing these events. We could advertise these sessions in new communities as well as existing ones. So as well as responding to the need that our community expressed to learn more about Wikidata, we could also advertise it to new audiences, people who were interested in data and data work, but who weren't necessarily yet part of the Wikimedia community. We found for Wikidata training that it's sometimes really difficult to create an introduction. We will have sometimes people who will come along who know absolutely nothing about structured data. And to the same course, we'll have people who already know a lot about SQL, who know a lot about databases, and trying to find a way to pitch something, to create a training course that really suits both of those people is really, really difficult. So what we did here was to be very explicit that this was for folks who had absolutely no experience, no knowledge, had never touched Wikidata before. And we were just very careful to frame this session as being for absolute beginners. One of the things that I really liked about using campaign events to advertise this is the messaging feature. If you have not used this yet in any way, I would highly recommend having a look at it. I've found it to be really, really good for being able to communicate with people in advance of an event and after an event too, to send them recordings or to ask for feedback. In the past, we've used a tool called Eventbrite, and I've found, unfortunately, over the years, that that has become less and less useful to us, and it has less functionality than it used to, in my opinion. So I've been really happy to be able to experiment using this campaign events tool. The next thing that I will talk about is our community sandbox sessions. I've been really fond of this. I think this has been my favorite thing that I did all of last year.
也就是新的
We
飞机
wanted to
上
do,
活
we
动
knew that we
与这
wanted to
个
do a
专案的管
series
理
of
工具。我们
volunteer
也有自己
based
的
events.
YouTube 账号，所以我们
There
可以去
was
录
a
下来，
feeling, I think,
上
for
载到
myself
YouTube，
that
方
a
便未来
lot
参
of
考
the
跟分
training
享。
that we were providing
这
was
样
the
之后，
same
如果
thing
有人需要，我们也
and
可以
over
直接
again.
把这些资源
And
提
yet
供给他
there
们。
are so many ways in which community members can contribute to the Wikimedia project. And the more that I talk to Wikimedians, I've been doing this now for over 10 years, and I still learn something new every time I talk to a Wikimedian, or they will tell me about a project that they're working on, or I will find out a thing about Wikisource or Wikimedia Commons that I didn't know about. I will fall down another rabbit hole in Wikidata when I'm trying to teach myself something. But there are always new things to learn. And there are different routes into the Wikimedia community for different people. And for us, then we wanted to find how can we bring new and different people in? How can we respond to this community need for trainers to do something that was a little bit different? And how can we support people to just turn up and deliver that session? So we draw all of these things in together, and we called it the Community Sandbox Sessions. We supported with our Zoom account, again with campaign events. We hosted the events, and we did all of the admin and the hosting time. We recorded all of the events and then again put them into a YouTube playlist as future resources. It allows us to center volunteer voices and not just staff voices, so that as things are coming from us, we are starting to build that network and allow people to get to know other Wikimedians from different parts of the country. It helped our volunteers and our community to widen their skills and to hear about a number of different kinds of activities that they maybe wouldn't have otherwise heard of. It offered training and editor support for topics in which the staff at Wikimedia UK are not necessarily experienced in. And from my point, it was also really fun. We had a brilliant selection of things. This is just a few of them. So the last one that we did was Harry Mitchell, who is an admin on English Wiki, talking about what the experience was like of being an admin. As we know, one of the global trends, the things that we have been focusing on as a movement, have been around the declining number of users with extended rights. And this was a way in which we could lift the curtain a little and explain more about what it means to have extended rights for those, and in a way to help to encourage more people to get involved. Another second one down on this screen here was a brilliant session run by Dr. Lucy Moore, who was talking about Wikidata and smell-related content and how to record smell-related content on Wikidata. This is exactly the sort of really interesting, unusual session that isn't the sort of thing that necessarily a staff member would be able to have the capacity to do, but it does allow us to spark interest and to spark joy and creativity, both from our trainers and from our community more widely. With both of these strands of training, we recorded the sessions wherever possible so that we could use these videos in the future. And while some of them might not have had very many views yet, we know that we can come back to those again and again and again. Now, we know that for some of our other requests, so if I scooch back here, you will see that number 5 on the need list was mass uploads, so to Wikidata and Wikimedia Commons. I am an OpenRefine trainer. I love working with OpenRefine, but I also know that it takes a long time to learn, and it can be quite involved. As part of my OpenRefine training, I helped to write a WikiLearn course on mass uploads with Wikidata. This is an example of where we weren't able necessarily to directly deliver a new and original training course on mass uploads. That would have probably taken more time than I was able to give. But what I am able to do in this instance is to point our community towards existing training materials within the movement. So I can send them over to WikiLearn and say, here are 2 courses, one on Wikimedia Commons and one on Wikidata, and you can learn at your own pace. Okay. This is the last little section, and then I have left some room at the end of this session for any questions and any discussion. This is an ANSOF matrix. If you are thinking about developing new products or new events, and you want to look at how it fits with what you do already in your organization, this tool, this ANSOF matrix, might be quite useful. I came across it when I was studying for a qualification in fundraising. One of the things I have done in the past is to fundraise for charities. And I came across this tool. I have found it very useful. I use it in strategic development for my work, both within and outside of Wikimedia. I think it's originally a tool from the world of marketing. It will basically map products against audiences existing to new. So this also works for events, it works for activities, all this kind of thing. Those in the bottom left, if you look at all of the things that you do, the ones in the bottom left are for existing products and existing audiences. These are safe bets. These are delivering something that you already have to people that you already reach. Those in the top right are new things that haven't existed yet, so new activities, and looking at new markets, new audiences. These might be more risky, but they also offer an opportunity for diversification. The other 2 quadrants, top left, is something that you already have, delivering it to people that you don't yet know. And on the right, delivering to your existing audiences, but delivering them something new. So these 2 quadrants are your developing areas. You might find that this helps frame all of your thinking, all of your options, in terms of your priorities and also in terms of risk. As I said, it's a marketing tool. It might not map exactly against what you do and your own context. If you find it confusing, don't use it. I've found it really helpful as a way to frame and really think carefully about how much time, how much capacity, how much time it's going to take me to do a particular piece of work and what the benefits might be. This is a very, very simple way of a very, very brief summation of what I did last year in terms of framing the different things that I wanted to carry out within our volunteer training offer. Okay, so there are, I think, 2 supplemental questions that I would want to ask when you're looking at building your training offer. So maybe you've got your activities, you've got things that you want to deliver, you're ready to tell people about your training offer. And this first question is really important. How will you communicate with your community? Do you have a section on your website where you could talk about it? Do you have an email list where you could promote it? Are you using Telegram or other social channels? And the second question that I think is really important is how will you get the most value from your work? Can you record sessions and share them? Could you create summations of things that aren't recorded? Can you provide other resources, such as handouts or slide decks or frameworks? Are there a list of links that you can provide? You have done all of this work to create something. I think it's really valuable to see how you can get more and most value from the things that you have already created without putting in additional capacity or resources. I think a few notes are, as we come to a close of this section, that you do not have to do everything at once. If you are starting from scratch, I think it may be overwhelming to look at what bigger chapters do and feel that it's too much. Do not try and do everything at once. I don't think anybody needs to. I think that a slow build, that working with your own learning curve and with that of your community, finding out what works and what doesn't, is a really valuable process. I would also encourage people to very thoroughly cost any activity. Know what it's going to cost you, or at least have an idea of where you might incur cost. Also, I would very much encourage you to have an idea about how you are going to evaluate. Evaluation, I think, is such a key part of being able to feed in to create a more effective program, and that becomes a constant process of evaluation and improvement. And also, I think the last thing I would talk about is that it's really important to provide feedback to the community that you are working with. It's all very well for us to create these incredible things. If nobody knows about it, and if you haven't told anybody about the work that you're doing, then that's a missed opportunity. In terms of how we care for our volunteers, how we let our community know that we are doing this work for them, we need to be open. We need to be open about the work that we're doing, and about the value that we hope to bring to the community. Being transparent as we can and authentic in these communications is really key here. So in summation, you're going to assess need. You will assess capacity, including your budget, if you have any. You're going to assess the skill that you have, either that of yourself, or maybe somebody else that can help. Maybe there is something that you can outsource. Can you use volunteers or peer learning? How are you sharing this learning? Ultimately, this is not a process that you do once and then finish. For us, it is a constantly evolving process, something that we look at least once a year and sometimes more often. Thank you very much. This concludes all of the things that I wanted to talk about today. I have left my email address up here, and I'll leave that slide on for a little while. And if you want to find the Volunteer Supporters Network, or indeed any of our resources, please do head over to our meta page. It is just Volunteer Supporters Network. We have an entire tab of resources. We are still building this. Those we hope to share more and more as the time goes on. We also hope to curate other resources. So if you've seen something that is really helpful, please do let us know about it. You can sign up for our mailing list. If that is also helpful, we'd love to hear more from this community. I am going to stop sharing now, and I am also happy to take any questions if anybody had any.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah, for that insightful and inspiring presentation. And we will now move to Q&A session, and we already have many questions on the chat box. I think we have 4 questions. Maybe you wanna answer for the first question first, or I need to read it for you, or
Mhm.
maybe the person that ask have question is the first one for Mike. Is how would you create an engaging training that is not one time but rather for a certain time for a specific group to achieve success?
Yeah, how to create an engaging training that is not one time, but rather for a certain time for a specific group to achieve. I'm not sure I quite am getting the sense of what the question is about. That's not one time, but rather for a certain. Oh, sorry. Okay. Um, so actually, again, to come back to the campaign events tool, there's a new feature on that we're going to be trialing, I think, which is called collaborative contributions. And it allows you to set an editing goal around particular things. You can also do something similar with the outreach dashboard, the programs and events dashboard. And you can, with the dashboard, you can load in, say, particular articles that people should be working on. I think there's something really powerful about those kind of statistics, that kind of feedback, that sense of group working towards a target. When we do work with our Wiki Loves campaigns, one of the very simple, very easy and free things that I've done when I do particular work in Scotland, one of the countries of the UK. And I'll do regular email updates every week throughout the campaign to tell people how many photos, how many submissions we've had, and what we're aiming for. A few years ago, we had a very light-hearted competition with Wales to see who could get the most uploads. So very light-hearted and very friendly, but it gave that sense of we are working towards something. So feeding back and being able for people to see the impacts of what they've been doing. So I think that's really helpful. There was a question earlier on from Mike. Thank you also for your comment, Mike. Yeah, we've been building it for a few years, and yeah, it's a lot, but it's been the work of a long time. And I think, oh yes, there we go. Campaign events tool only works for people who have already got Wikimedia accounts. Has this been a problem with complete beginners? Yeah, this is really interesting. Campaign events, you need to sign up with your Wikimedia account. And if you are doing something where you are talking to complete beginners, there is a little bit of a barrier because you then have to tell them, okay, this is how you sign up for a Wikimedia account. And also, please remember to put your email address in so that we can send, and please turn on this setting. Right, that is a learning curve. And there are 2 different answers to that. For the Wikidata training, because we were talking to new audiences, one of the groups that I wanted to talk to was the open data community. And there was the particular website that I knew there were people there who were interested. I also assessed that because they were coming from the open data community, that the process of setting up an account and understanding what that was about was going to be less of a barrier. For the public editathon series that we do, we still use Eventbrite. And that's, I think, is the only thing these days that we still use that tool for, because you just sign up with an email, and people are just very used to that, and it's very easy. So that was just a case of picking the right tool for the right audience. I really wanted to see if it would be a barrier with the Wikidata one. I was really curious to see whether or not it would work, and I think for that audience it was fine. But yeah, I would. It is a limitation of it, certainly.
Mm. Yes, my experience has been, Angara, that sign up is a big barrier for new users. Even in person, if you are sitting there with them,
Yes.
it can even be very hard to create a new account, and very time consuming. And in some cases, we've even had IP blocks, even when
Yeah.
I've been there in the group. So it absolutely trying to do that remotely so people can join a training session can be
Really.
very, very much a barrier. So that's a really interesting answer. Thank you, Sarah.
No worries.
It is difficult there, Mike.
Go for it.
If you find signing people up is so difficult, then that's what needs to be fixed. It's no good creating training courses and inviting people into the room if when they walk out tomorrow, they've got no connection left to the community.
Exactly.
So you've got to find solutions, look for how to get around the IPs, and do all of that testing before you even walk through their door.
Yeah. I have a process that I go through when I work with a partner organization, that I will get them to around about a week before the event, maybe a bit longer. I ask them to please go to the room where we will be doing this and connect to the Wi-Fi that we will be using, and see if you can edit Wikipedia and talk them through it, to see whether or not there's an IP block. One other thing that I've found super useful has been, there's an option within the programs and events dashboard that you can enable account registration. So I turn on that, and then I just get people to say, okay, if you haven't created your Wikipedia account in advance, like I asked you to, then please don't do it right now, but please click this button. And then I have event coordinator rights on English Wiki. I just don't even know if you need that if you've got the dashboard. I think they've updated it. And then they create their account through that, and then I can approve them. And then part of our post-event follow-up has been to leave messages on people's talk pages, or email them if we have their email addresses through Eventbrite. And I tell people in the training that I'm going to do that. If I have access to email addresses, then great. If I don't, I'll ask the person at the partner organization who is running that to, once I've left everybody nice talk page messages with links, to if they can email everybody to let them know that I have left a message on the talk page, to try and encourage people to come back. But yeah, I totally agree that the sign up being a barrier is, yes, it is not a small thing. Hisam. Training for Wiki. Oh, training for Wiki function. That's interesting. I haven't done anything on Wiki function yet. True, it's very technical. Yeah, not within Wikipedia. We could write articles. Let's see. In Wikidata, people contributed data in which others might not even bother to look and say some queries were messed up. Yeah. Creating Wikidata that can be used in Wikidata info box in Commons. Oh, people can immediately see effect of their work. Yeah, that's a really good idea. What aspects should we focus on to improve participant retention and engagement in the movement following the training we have conducted? I think there's two answers to this. I think that one is managing our own expectations of retention. I find that editathons, editathons sometimes get criticized for not having good retention rates. I think that doing a series of editathons, a series of workshops, if you can, is always going to be better, because people can come back and refresh their training. They need that refreshing. They need that embedding of the knowledge. But there's also a degree to which editathons aren't just about creating content. They are about advocacy. And I have done work in a university. We did a series of editathons, and a year later there was a Wikimedian in residence at that university, and that was because the experience that was had by a member of senior management who was at that editathon was transformational. And the experience she got, she still does edit actually, but the experience that she had and bringing other members of her staff along allowed them to think and see what the effect could be. And it helped advocate for that Wikimedian in residence post. So yeah, I think there's sometimes about advocacy too. But in terms of participant retention, so manage your expectations about how many people you're going to retain. But the focus, the thing that I would always try and focus on is coming back to people regularly. So maybe you send something 24 hours later. Maybe it's a week later. Maybe it's a month later. I would really like to do some work over the next year about how we communicate with people after an event to improve retention. I think there's probably some really interesting work to do there. I have a thing that I have said for a very long time, which is that advocacy is a dragon with a long tail. And there can be work that you do that you don't know if it's had any impact. And then 18 months later, someone will get back to me and say, oh, I was at a thing you did a year ago. Can we have a chat about setting something up? Yeah. Okay. But has there been a time you needed to train Wikimedia experts' soft skills on humanizing training styles, like reducing technical jargons and being patient with trainees? Absolutely. Yes. For my Train the Trainer course that we run, the in-person section, I have a whole section on that is around presentation style, and how it feels to be a new user. And in the online session, the training course that comes, the WikiLearn course that comes before the in-person section, there is this whole section on, do you remember what it was like to be a new user? What are the barriers that new users face? How do they feel in this situation? To try and get them to put themselves in the shoes of a new user, because we love an acronym in the Wikimedia community. We love an acronym, and that is one of the things that we talk about, is use less jargon. But absolutely, like I think it is a thing that you can teach wiki skills. Soft skills is harder. Soft skills are much more difficult to teach. It can be done, but it is much harder. And the way that I have always tried to approach it is to ask people to put themselves in the shoes of those new users. Can you remember how it feels? This is the problem that we're trying to solve, and look at that kind of behavior work. And a conversation is based on partnership. 1 or 2 tips that work in terms of making first contact with a prospective partner, how to get the partner's attention, and to seal that conversation with a successful partnership deal. Oof, that's a big question, Liani. Keep trying. Honestly, keep trying. In my experience, so I say I don't know if I can. For someone in the audience, sorry, yes, who is this? Promising cake and coffee. That's a good shout, Gary. Yes. From my own experience of doing community building work in Scotland specifically, I would go and speak at the opening of a door. I took every opportunity and every conference and anything that anybody asked me to go and to speak at, or to a meeting to be at, any sort of networking. I went to all of them, and I traveled all the way around Scotland. I think the travel expenses line for Scotland was like, here's for the rest of the UK, and then it was like up here for Scotland. But it paid off. And I developed a sense of where the metaphor phrase is low-hanging fruit, where the easy wins might be. But it was just about keeping asking. Um, and I'm doing some new work at the moment on a different part of the UK where we haven't traditionally had many contacts, but we need to. And it's further away from me. I live in Scotland, so it's further away from me. It's not as easy for me to do traveling, and I've been going back to other things. One thing I'm doing more of now, which I never used to do, is a lot more cold calling. So just sending random emails to people, and I find it really difficult to do that. When I worked as a fundraiser, it was my least favorite part of the job, was just randomly phoning people. But email has been weirdly successful. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it absolutely is not at all, and you never hear back, and that's fine. I've not lost anything. But I have been surprised at a couple of them that have come back, and people are like, "This is great, yeah, brilliant. Let's have a chat. When can you come and do some training?" That was, yeah, it was surprising. But I think the success of that has been in doing a bit of research around who it is that you're contacting, statistics, impact, finding where it is that the joy of all of the things we do on Wiki and their needs, the organization's strategic needs, where those might match, being able to offer something around impact or an idea. Yeah, it's a huge question. Oh, do you think that running a workshop on advanced Wikipedia rights is doable? Some of our new volunteers have expressed interest in helping with site tasks and moving towards admin roles. The catch is that none of us are admins yet. Where can we find the right resources or guidance for this? Yeah, big one. I would honestly, in the first instance, reach out to whichever your home wiki is, reach out to the existing extended rights holders in the first instance, and see if there is any advice that they can offer. I say we had that lovely chat with Harry, who's admin, one of our community members, and he's an admin on the English Wiki. And he's always really happy to have a chat. He was very honest about the challenges, but I think it was, especially for new volunteers, when people are really excited, you want to, from my point, I would want them to have informed consent about what the workload actually is, and about what they, if they want to do not a huge workload, that is also okay. But yeah, I think reaching out to the folks on your home wiki who have those rights in the first instance. I have seen that this year's Wikimania has a pre-conference for users with extended rights. And I think this is an example of the kind of really helpful work that we need to do to encourage and support those users with extended rights in the community.
Sorry, can I just jump in there?
Go for it.
No good for people without extended rights. It's a closed room.
No,
So
yeah.
it's nowhere to get any support from. I'd say just go to the ESEAP hub team and seek out. There's plenty of admins around the ESEAP community that also speak Mandarin, so they'll be able to help bring someone through in a lot more productive way.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to suggest that non-extended rights holders should go to that. It was more that I think we need to support that community more. And I love that is a thing that is happening for that community. Sorry, that was maybe a bit confusing. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't know. I realise that's we're nearly at 1/2 past the hour, which I think may be our time.
Yes, I think we're reaching the end of like questions from everyone as well. Carlos, do you think anyone have any more questions? Yes,
Oh, I
Robert
think
is just sharing with us that he can share how to be admin from an in-wiki admin perspective. But if this is the case of the question from Taiwan Love Plore, we can definitely from ESEAP Hub would share with the community if in this case a Chinese wiki, then we could tailor specifically with Chinese speaking trainer who is also the admin, which I believe there are within our trainer pool as well. So it will be really, really helpful. We'll be able to talk more about this later. Thank you for reaching out and sharing, and also Robert as well for the willingness. I believe Robert is speaking Mandarin really, really well, so we'll also be able to have Robert talk more about that. Thank you. Anyone else? I think if there is no questions or anything else, but if you come up with any ideas that you want to have and see more in the ESEAP Learning Clinic, I think you definitely can put it in our learning notes so that I will be able to try to use the session. But for me personally, I think before closing this, definitely I want to thank Sarah for the willingness to learn, to share with us, so we are able to learn about Wikimedia UK, and also all the participants were all amazing trainer and manager of programs that I have known of, seeing the work that you do all in Meta. I'm also inspired a lot with the work that you do with new communities, new members, and also even like the existing and uh great administrator, people already advanced and wants to move up to becoming admin, for example. That's amazing thing. And then I believe that we can also share more about our expertise, hopefully in the next learning session. But to inform you, there will be no learning session from ESEAP Hub in the month of May, because I believe we are gonna have like lots of learning in ESEAP conference, and even those who are not coming, I believe will be able to join online or even revisit the learning. So let's marinate on the learning from ESEAP conference. I'm not sure what words I'm using now, but yeah. Anyway, so that's the case for everyone. Thank you so much from ESEAP Hub, and I'll see you around June for the next learning session. Anything else from Sarah?
No, just thank you so much for having me. It's been really lovely to see you all, and please do reach out if you have any questions. If there is anything that I can help with, please also do drop by the VSN. We'd love to have you.
Yes, thank you. Kak Elis, you may close our meeting today.
Sorry, I was still on mute. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for the really inspiring presentation today. I also happy to be host in here because I also learning about how to building our community to make a sustainable community. And okay, before we officially close today's session, let me briefly summarize what we learned. Today we explore how to better understand our community needs, how to design training program that address real gaps, and how we can create more impactful learning experience for our volunteers. These insights are very valuable, especially for those of us who are working to grow and support our communities. Thank you everyone for joining today's learning clinic. We hope this session has been helpful and inspiring for all of you. Don't forget to register for upcoming session and stay connected with the ESEAP Hub. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next session. Thank you and goodbye.